Thank you, former student. Hello, I'm Andom Ghebreghiorgis, and I'm proud to be here in my home city of Mount Vernon to announce my candidacy for Congress in New York's 16th Congressional District. Growing up in Mount Vernon, I had the amazing privilege of going to diverse integrated schools. Whether what was the Rose Y, the YMYWHA here, which is really largely in a black area, for nursery, pre-K, after school, or my public elementary school, Lincoln, a couple blocks away. That sort of integrated experience is now practically extinct. Whenever I meet up with my old elementary school friends, we inevitably talk about Lincoln, our teachers. But in particular, we talk about Mr. Rocco and the impact her second grade class had on us. I remember us learning about dinosaurs, having timed multiplication quizzes, and taking spelling tests. I'm sure we did other things, but what my old classmates and I always come back to with fondness were these student-parent cultural presentations that we had at the end of the year. David Grimes' mother came in one day adorned in kente cloth and taught us about Kwanzaa. Another day, Jocelyn brought in the most delicious Puerto Rican rice pudding. Others brought in pão de queijo and jerk chicken, and others spoke about the history of Italian astronomers. For my presentation, my mother came to school in full-on Eritrean regalia, Natala and gold. While my classmates dined on injera and churro, I spoke about the history of this newly independent country I had never been to, and a culture I did not really know. And that was the most positive, affirming feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. I, a first-generation American born to Eritrean parents, felt valued. Mr. Rocco's classroom, and Lincoln School as a whole, was a petri dish for cross-cultural exchange. And as such, being an American, being a New Yorker, being someone from Mount Vernon, meant that you had to fully embody all of our diverse cultures. So as a second grader, I felt proud to be American, Eritrean, Jamaican, Italian, Brazilian, Portuguese, Puerto Rican, Black, and Jewish. I felt all of these in me through my friends, my class, and my city. See, Mr. Rocco's challenge, her classroom challenge, was really similar in many ways to that of America's then and America's now. How can you take these very distinct individuals coming from different places, entering with different skills, and holding different worldviews, and have them all work together for the benefit of all? In Mr. Rocco's classroom and all the classrooms at Lincoln, at the Rose Y, here in Mount Vernon, we gained a sense of our place in this world. With such an understanding, we became a community empowered by our difference and strengthened by our empathy, one that recognized our collective humanity. This unwavering respect for our humanity has served as the moral underpinning for my solidarity, my service, and my activism throughout my life. Here in the 16th district, we see that commitment in our grassroots groups. We have seen it in how the local indivisible groups mobilize together or against horrific abortion bans passed around the country. We saw it in how members of Progressive Women of Pelham rallied members of the community to prevent ICE from making an arrest outside a local town courthouse. We've seen it in Westpac and Westchester Coalition for Police Reform when they protested in Yonkers, demanding that lawmakers work to end cash bail and provide driver's licenses to undocumented workers. These righteous examples of solidarity and collective action reflect that here in Westchester and the Bronx, we have a movement of people already doing the work to ensure that everyone's humanity is recognized. The challenge to our organizing potential is the scale of the vast problems facing us. In plain view, we can see how extreme inequality limits us. In Bronxville, just next door, the median housing sale price is over $2 million. The median property tax on those homes is roughly $50,000, which is about the same as the median income here. The property taxes they pay over there are the same as the median income here. And these neighboring areas juxtaposed highlight the affordability crisis we have in New York. In Westchester in particular, homeless rates have skyrocketed. 10% of public school students in Mount Vernon, Tarrytown, and Peekskill are now homeless. 10%. Think of how many of those students could have been provided snacks and extracurricular activities after school at the Rose Y behind me. How many extra hours would a single mother have been able to work because she knew her kids were being cared for. But the Rose-Wise doors have been shuttered for over 10 years. And in its place, we don't have more education. We don't have more affordable housing. Looking up at this boarded up eyesore, all we have are memories. Some of these memories are the benefit and promise of integration. However, in certain communities, this hope has been foreclosed. I used to teach special education in the Bronx at a Renewal Middle School in the Richard R. Green campus on 217th and Barnes. On this campus, there was not one white student, not one. The only white people my students ever interacted with had power over them: teachers, principals, doctors, cops. Like most segregated schools, mine was plagued by overcrowding, a lack of resources, and administrative neglect. In my home, stacks of printer paper littered my living room because the school did not provide paper for a copy machine that was usually broken. My bookshelf housed several notebooks of incident reports that detailed the daily violence and abuse in the school, daily violence and abuse that the school was unfit to handle with only 2 social workers for 500 students. For those of us who spent years teaching in underfunded, apartheid schools, we understand the challenge facing public education moving forward. The super rich corporate executives and their lobbyists are hard at work rigging the system, but we already know that the system has been stacked against us. Segregation and disinvestment in housing and education are just some of the problems of Westchester and the Bronx, problems that the Rose-Y used to address. We need representation that has the integrity to call out these problems as they are, and that has the courage to propose bold solutions that will upend the status quo. They are why we must reimagine a politics that is inclusive, representative, and transformative, a politics that brings in voices that have been excluded and marginalized. Presently, our representative is a 16-term incumbent, one who has been in office for over 30 years. Where has the transformational, transformative politics been? Where are the bold solutions that are going to recognize and improve our reality? Anyone in such a position for so long, even the most benevolent, their values, priorities, and beliefs have diverged so much, both materially and morally, that it is impossible for them to share the same struggles of the working class they claim to represent. This contradiction is highlighted even more because our representative is beholden to special interests. Over the course of his 30 years, he's received millions of dollars in contributions from real estate, the military and defense lobby, the healthcare industry, and Wall Street. How can we have a true democratic system when powerful corporations stand to profit from the decisions of elected officials whose campaigns they fund? The corrosive impact of money in politics negates our ability to recognize our common humanity. It devalues the voices of working people and puts profits over these people. As an advocate for people, families, and communities, I am proud to affirm that this campaign will not take corporate PAC money, for we know that the power of the people by your side is much more valuable than dollars in your pocket. We know that the power of people is rooted in values and priorities that recognize our humanity, recognizing affordable housing as a human right, guaranteeing jobs at a fair wage, ensuring Medicare for all, investing in clean energy, sustainable infrastructure, and the Green New Deal, federally funding public education from preschool through college. Poll after poll shows Americans want these things. We can realize a future in which we have all of them. We know Congress decides fiscal appropriation, and it is imperative that the representative of New York's 16th Congressional District invests in our progressive values. We've wasted trillions of dollars on forever wars, unnecessary prisons, ICE, on corporate welfare of every kind. Imagine what places like Mount Vernon would look like if we invested even a fraction of that money in our own communities instead. Our representative's hawkish record is clear. He voted for the Iraq War. He voted against withdrawing troops, U.S. troops from Afghanistan. He opposed the Iran nuclear deal. He supported Trump's decision to unilaterally move the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. He supported Israel's illegal annexation of the Golan Heights. Humanity does not benefit from these militaristic policies that we've come typically to expect from the Republican Party. This cannot be the moral foundation we stand on. In this campaign, we will oppose all U.S. wars, occupations, and support for oppressive regimes. We will fight to end military aid to regimes that commit human rights violations. We assert that our domestic policy is our foreign policy. We cannot invest in what we need to live here unless we divest from what kills over there. Yeah. We need to be honest about our democratic representation. One cannot sincerely advocate for the Green New Deal if they don't acknowledge the environmental impacts of militarism, our carbon-gushing tanks and planes, all of our Superfund sites, our 800 military bases around the world that pollute others' land and water. It'd be hypocritical for one to call for Medicare for all when they have a record of voting for war, devaluing life at home and abroad. Hundreds of thousands of civilians have been killed in the name of fighting terror in the Middle East, Africa, and Central and South Asia. In addition to thousands of Americans who have died abroad in these conflicts, 20 veterans and active duty military commit suicide every day. It'd be callously disingenuous for one to claim to advocate for racial justice at home when our foreign policy has treated black and brown lives as less valuable abroad. Can't talk about fully funding our public schools without recognizing how much money goes towards building bombs instead of books. Our current representative has received contributions from Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Boeing. So when he breaks party line and votes for an arms sale, we understand who he's enriching. For my generation of students, born around or after 9/11, all they have known every year of their life is war, the threat of climate extinction, the intractability of wage stagnation, the unaffordability of college, and income inequality. The urgent time for change was yesterday, but it's not going to come on its own. Turnout has been abysmally low for a reason. Wakefield, Edenwald, all of Uptown, Mount Vernon, parts of Yonkers, and New Rochelle, we've been shut out of the fold. We want to bring everyone in. For my entire career, I've tried to help bring about transformative change in communities that are underserved by politicians and corporate executives who only care about self-interest. As a black Mount Vernon resident of Eritrean descent, one who went from public school to private school and then to Yale, who later taught in the Bronx, Washington Heights, and the West Bank, I'm confident that I'm uniquely positioned to understand the local, national, and global challenges everyday people of District 16 face. With this respect for our collective humanity, empowered by Lincoln School and the Rose Y, as well as all the grassroots activists who've been fighting the good fight all these years, I ask you to join me and get involved. Join us at andomfornewyork.com as we launch the site tomorrow. Volunteer, donate a couple of bucks, share your ideas with us, help us organize. Like Ms. Duraco redefined Americanness so her diverse students fit into it, we will redefine American politics in this campaign. This is our moment. Our people are ready, our students are ready. As we stand at the fore of an American turning point, let us grasp the prospect of change with the firmness of a raised fist and help America reclaim its promise. Yaakov, thank you.